Good evening, everypony, and welcome to Commentary is Magic's first stream in a new series called Tactics Talks. I am, as always, Grandpaws.
I'm Emperor Bugle.
And Arcat.
It's like we're doing this on a weekly basis now.
It's awesome.
I mean, I'm happy to be making content. And this one's going to be fun. Kind of continuing in the style of what we've done with Deck Discourse and Know Your Opponent and several other series in the past, we're going to be focusing on one particular aspect of the game today. And that one is going to be on specific tactics that are used. Now, Bugle, for all the players out there, can you explain the difference between a strategy and a tactic?
So, strategy is basically your long-term plan. For a card game like this one that involves your deck building and generally your strategy for how you want to go about things. For example, Hot Wings has a strategy of go fast, stay fast, end fast. While a deck more like Cruel Mistress has a strategy of let the opponent have the early game, then play troublemakers and don't let them confront ever again. These are your strategies, but those are the high-level plans, basically. Your tactics is your in-the-moment plans. Like, what cards do I have available to me right now? How can I use them to accomplish my overall goal? Both are very important. It's just one is long-term and one is short-term.
All right. So now we've got a pretty good idea of the difference between strategy and tactics, and for today we're going to be focusing on the more pinpoint one, which is tactics in this case. Specifically, one particular element, and we're starting things off with mulligans.
The second thing you do every single game. The first thing, of course, being choosing your starting problem, but most people just know what they're going to be doing anyway.
The third thing that you're doing every game.
I don't know. I tend to sit down and get out my playmat and get out my deck and
determine who goes first. And
the determining who goes first bit is actually fairly important here because according to the real game rules, you need to know that before you do your mulligans.
This is true. You do need to do that first, yes.
So it's like
I should have said second decision, because determining who goes first isn't a decision. That's a random chance.
Yeah, correct.
That's fair. And mulligans are something that can be a little tricky, and also potentially a major stumbling block for players who might not understand why mulligans exist or what you're supposed to do with them. Certainly, there are hands that we can have in theoretical situations that are just so atrocious you can look at this and say, I can't play anything, I don't want to keep this hand. And those are very easy decisions. But what do you do, for example, in Hot Wings, when you're playing up against an opponent whose problem would allow you to DFO on turn 2 if you have the hand for it, and you don't have the hand for it, but you've got other good pieces? How do you know whether or not you're supposed to give that up?
It's difficult. Sometimes the correct answer is yes, sometimes the correct answer is no. It depends on your hand, and it depends on your opponent's main and their starting problem. Like, all of this can help influence whether or not you keep a hand or not, which is why we're doing this, because there's a lot of variables.
Sure. Before we get into some specific examples that we have prepared here, let's go ahead and ask this. How important is it to know your deck and its place within the meta in order to be able to properly make good mulligan decisions?
I'm going to point out what I just did at BronyCan and then invite you to reconsider whether that's a good question to be asking me.
I'm still going to ask you.
Well, evidently it's not, but in truth, you should know what's in your deck and what kind of tools you've got to deal with other archetypes.
I mean, it helps.
It does tend to help. That said, sometimes you go in blind and you're just like, we'll see what happens.
Sure. Assuming that you have a chance to be prepared, though, it's generally going to be a good idea to understand not just your deck, but the other decks you might be playing up against. And that is, of course, an entire other aspect of this is knowing the metagame. But we're not going to touch that. we're going to assume that in these situations, you have perfect knowledge of what your opponents might be playing based on specific clues. And then we'll look at a few hypothetical situations and share our thoughts on whether or not we should mulligan.
I do like the phrase perfect knowledge of what they might be playing.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, I mean, if certain people...
I get it. It's just it's an interesting phrasing.
Let me phrase that differently. How about perfect meta knowledge? Is that better?
Perfect meta knowledge, yes.
Okay.
Well,
So
there's also certain people. Well, that's probably a combo deck. Is that some random weird main I've never seen? That's a combo.
Is that Apple Vendor? Yeah, it's combo.
Yes, like knowing your meta is very important. Knowing who some people prefer certain archetypes.
Feathers.
If you're playing against Feathers, before a couple weeks ago, you could have basically guaranteed she was playing farming, and then she threw everyone for a loop, including us.
It was pretty amusing.
But anyway, I think it's time to look at some decks, some hands.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Now, again, before we dive in here, this is something that we've done our best to make objective, but there is still a subjective element to that. What we mean is there's not always going to be a 100% correct decision. There are going to be situations where the decision to make seems more obvious, but there are little variances here and there, and it's really just up to you as a player and as someone who knows, your opponents a little bit better, especially if you play them on a weekly basis, or they're more affiliated with one particular style of play than another. You can alter your decision-making process for mulligans based on that. With that being said, should we go into the first deck here?
Yeah,
sure.
Let's move on. Our first deck on the list is one that I think most people have at least some familiarity with. Either they've played it or they've played against it.
Or if nothing else, you've at least read about it online.
Yeah.
Or, watched a stream on it. Maybe.
So, yeah, this is Blazing Hot Wings. Unmodified. We have seen some modified versions, but for the sake of this example, we're going to have an unmodified one. And yeah.
So we'll take a few minutes to look over this deck and identify some of the key pieces that would be good things to have in your opening hand.
Yes. Yeah. So, well, before that, your general strategy on whether or not you'd want to keep something or not, I feel would be, can I DFO turn 2? I think that's generally your plan.
Yeah.
And if you can't, then you ship it.
Right.
Ship it.
In most situations.
In most situations, yes.
Yeah.
Like we said, this is tactics, but the general strategy here is try and DFO turn 2. Whether or not you can or not, that's tactics.
So let's talk about suspect number 1 on the list of things that you really want to see in a Hot Wings opening hand. She's right there down in the corner. Her name's Angel Wings. She does silly things.
She's next on the list.
She's next on the list.
Your best friend, Angel Wings.
Now, generally speaking, Hot Wings would also like to see one of the hasty 2-power friends, Rutherford or Cadence. However, in some cases, a Soren can also do this.
Or Pinkie Pie.
Mm-hmm.
Or Pinkie.
Or very odd combinations with Wonderbolt's Wrap.
Yes. Well, Wonderbolt's Wrap and Soren can do very silly things.
Now, the more Angel Wings you get, the better.
Right.
Obviously.
Okay. So we've got a pretty good look at the list, and I think most people are pretty familiar with it. Should we look at the first hand?
Yeah, let's look at this.
It's an amazing hand. 2 Night Gliders. And for reference, our setup here is both what your main and starting problem and what the opposing main and their starting problem is.
Right, so we're on the left with Luna and Trading Traditions, and we're playing against a Vinyl player who also has Trading Traditions.
So this one is, there's a lot that can be done with vinyl, of course. Trading Traditions implies a couple things, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But for now, go ahead, chat, go ahead and make your guesses as to whether or not you would keep this hand, or whether or not you should mulligan it.
I know what I would do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is clear cut in both cases, actually.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Godot says pitch it.
Yeah.
Taylor says toss it.
Yeah.
This is absolutely pitch it for a couple of reasons here. First off, you don't have an Angel Wings. Second off, you don't have entry. You're up against
the entry.
what could quite possibly be an opposing aggro deck. You do not want to lose this.
Yeah, this could be aggro, or it could be control with Snips and Snails, and either way, that's just really bad.
Yep.
And you can play literally 0 cards, even though you have 2 very tempting Night Gliders. This is not a good hand.
Yep. Do not be greedy with hands like this. Night Glider is a great card, but you've got to have that early game play.
Pitch it.
All right. So, and for reference, we are referring to pitching this, whether you're going first or second, doesn't matter in this case.
In this case, it does not matter, yes.
It
Terrible
may matter
hand.
in other cases.
Terrible hand, 0 of 10 would not play.
It's
All right.
a
That's
very
it.
shiny hand, though. 2
I mean, it
ultras
is.
and a super.
Next.
And in our next hand, we're up against Applejack and Rockslide, so pretty clearly farming. And let's see what we got.
Okay. So, Angel Wings, Soren, Night Glider, Buckball, Berry Punch, Tira.
Yeah.
So, chat, go ahead and place your guesses as for whether or not you would keep this hand if you're going first.
I like Railer's suggestion for the previous hand. Cheat and see if you're going to draw entry.
Please don't cheat.
Please don't cheat.
Or please do against me. I like free wins.
I mean, sure. But if you're going to cheat, do so in an obvious way so your opponent catches you when you get DQ'd.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Railer says keep. Godot says keep. Let's see what Lunatic says. Lunatic says keep. And yeah, I think all of us would absolutely agree. This is a keep hand.
Potentially. My reason for keeping is not the Angel Wings and Soren, because your opponent's gonna turn 1 double trouble probably here.
Sure.
My reason for keeping actually is the 2 dilemmas.
I agree.
Right, exactly. You can't DFO with this hand. It looks like you might be able to, but you're just short. But yeah, the 2 dilemmas is very nice.
You might be able to if your opponent plays something.
It depends on what you draw, I guess.
There's a lot of things you could end up drawing here that would help.
Wonderbolt Trap.
A Wonderbolt Trap will do it. Any of the Hasty Friends will end up doing it. Another 1-drop friend will do it. A Pinkie Pie will do it. So there are a lot of options you can end up drawing. Railer, with this hand, you can't DFO on turn 2.
Yeah, you don't have enough AT to play everything you need.
Right. Turn 3, you'd be able to. But turn 2, no.
Yeah, this is keep, though.
Right. But again,
Yeah, if you draw a hasty.
that's something that you have to factor in.
But
And
you don't know if you are or not. You only see these 6 cards. Like, chances are okay that you draw a hasty friend in the 7th card, but it's not 100% for sure.
You are effectively committing the greatest pause according to greatest crime according to Grand Pause, which is looking at the top card of your deck after you decide to mull.
yes. Please.
I still
Go-
say this is totally fine.
No, this is not totally fine. And I'll get into that in a moment. But yeah, in this situation, going first, you've got the double dilemmas. You have options even if your opponent plays double trouble on turn 1. Like, you have options here. And while this may not necessarily be the best line of play, there's one other thing to consider here. You actually have one of your few Earth Ponies in hand. And your
Yeah.
opponent
Oh,
is
yeah.
playing a Rock Slide. if you really needed to, you could move Luna up and then play Berry Punch on turn 3 if you didn't have the ability to DFO and if both problems were locked down to stop AJ from getting an extra flip. Like, Berry Punch is almost always going to be useless against AJ anyway, because most AJ farming decks simply don't run friends.
Yeah. Anyway, so
does this change at all if you're going second?
Nope.
I don't think so, because again, the two dilemmas are just going to be very good against the farming deck here.
Yeah.
Even if you don't get to do it until turn 3 or maybe turn 4 or whatever, but you can get rid of the Trollmakers, score some points, and you've got a Night Glider to score even more points if you can actually get past a big AJ.
Yep. All right. Next hand.
Next
hand.
We've got another Luna. This is looking like one of the older. What am I trying to say here? One of the Luna decks that we saw back in the Marks and Time era, running under Lock and Tree. But pretty sure it's aggro.
Okay, so under Lock and Tree means, to me at least, that it's likely mono blue.
Yeah.
Probably mono blue, yes.
So with that in mind, assuming that we're going first, and I think that actually there is an important distinction here between going first or second. At least more so than we've seen in the previous one. What do you think, Chet? What do you think, Chet?
This is an interesting one.
I agree.
I think I'm actually going to keep this, but I'm also not going to do the traditional Hot Wings opening here.
Yeah, I think you abuse your belly flop here.
Yeah, to force Luna into playing aggressively and then disrupt their DFO.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have a good friend to do that with? That's the problem.
That is tricky. So if you're going first, you'll see at least one more card. The question is, what would you have in this particular situation that would be better than the cards that you have in this hand?
Yeah, exactly.
Seeing a 7 for the opponent, or on the opponent's problem as your confront requirement, means you're basically not going to get the turn 2 DFO.
Double Angel Wings!
Barring Magical Christmas Time.
Double Angel Wings being Magical Christmas Time.
Right.
But here, I think you keep this because this is a fairly reasonable thing to start from, even if you don't get the T2 DFO.
Mm-hmm. You kind of have a dead card in hand in your Seabreeze's Flower.
Yeah, it's almost certainly dead here.
But everything else is pretty good. And having access to Spitfire is nice.
Yeah, and
Spitfire
you can pitch
and Belly Flop.
And you pitch Seabreeze to Spitfire, so.
Yeah, you pitch Seabreeze to Spitfire. Like this hand, seeing a 7 on the opposing side, well, effectively a 6 because of what its ability is, but still 6 is still too much. You basically go, I'm probably not going to be able to DFO. Is this hand good regardless?
Oh, that's a good point. I forgot about that. This actually becomes a keep because you can T2 DFO with this. No, you can't. I'm being stupid.
With Spitfire? No, because you'd need a...
you need another action token for the Wonderbolt's wrap.
You need a Sorin.
No, you can do this. You play Luna you move a Luna to your problem, play the Angel Wings. Or play oh god, the Rex there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is hard.
The Rex.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the Wreck.
On turn 2...
Well, you could...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think you actually...
You can't do it. You get the wreck in the wrong order.
Yeah, you get the wreck in the wrong order. Yeah.
It's so close.
It is.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you
So-
can still keep this. Anyway, we should move on here.
Yeah, just to mention here, I would actually keep this hand even if I'm going second, knowing that there's a high possibility that the opponent is going to DFO. I would just probably play out Angel Wings and Cadence first
On
Yeah.
turn 1?
on turn 1.
What's the benefit of doing that?
The benefit
You
of doing that
keep
is
your
getting you
pink.
into your color requirement because you know Trading Traditions is likely going away. Putting a single pink friend out there makes it pretty likely that if the opponent has a Rutherford, that you're still set back another 2 AT just to be able to play pink.
But I don't. But Bluna mono blue Bluna can't DFO turn 2 in this setup.
Oh, that's true. They can't Angel Wings.
Nope.
They would
Anyway.
have no. They can.
Next.
They just have to use the Troublemaker.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Starlight Glimmer.
All right.
Okay, next one. Now, I believe we have 5 examples for each of the 4 decks.
Actually,
that
that's not the
we've
next
got
one.
here,
I think
Okay.
this
Yes,
is the next
5
one.
examples.
And the last 2 examples for each deck are going to be the same hand for us and the same. Is it the same hand for us and then just a
It's the
different
same
main
hand.
/ problem?
Yeah,
And the same main.
main and or problem change.
Ah, okay.
Some of them are different. Okay, so looking at what the opponent's got here, Ambassador of Friendship, Trading Traditions, implies a couple things. Implies it's not Zipperwill. Or does it?
Pretty much.
It's probably Cruel Mistress,
Something
but
that
it's
likes
almost
getting into
certainly
orange.
control. But it might be purple something aggro. It's unlikely to get rid of your Trading Traditions, however.
That fast, correct.
Right.
So if we're going first here, chat, what do you think? Do you keep this hand?
Two Rutherfords is pretty nice.
Rutherford's isn't bad.
The best part about this.
Is Gabby. Totally the best part.
There is a way, however dumb, that you can T2 DFO with this.
No, you can totally T2 DFO with this.
Mm-hmm.
Easily.
So keep it.
Yep. Rayler got it.
Yeah.
You have the turn 2 DFO, so you keep it. I think you do that regardless of whether or not you're on the play or the draw here.
Yeah.
What's the variant here?
So the
Variant
variant.
is Ancient Research.
Yep. So now, instead of Twilight running Trading Traditions, Twilight is running Ancient Research.
You still freaking keep it. In fact, you keep it even harder.
I disagree.
I disagree.
You can turn 2 DFO with this.
No, you
Not
can't.
with this hand.
Why not? Oh, because, yeah, Train Traditions. That's why. I was reading the 4 wrong.
Yeah, why aren't we need the problem in the
Like,
main
flipped.
upside down?
Yeah.
So in this situation, it's a little different than before. We were able to confront our opponent's problem just with Bluna and Soren because it had a 4 requirement. But now that Ancient Research has a 5 requirement, yep, we're just 1 power short, unfortunately. You can get 5 power to one problem, Godot, but you need 5 power to both problems. And since we're having to rely on Soren to get into a particular color, we don't have a way to be able to confront both problems.
Yeah, and since it's so important to get Twilight off of Ancient Research, especially early, you want to try and go for that turn 2 DFO. On the draw, you're not going to be able to get her off, but you'd probably still mulligan because, again, there are hands that can get you that turn 2 DFO, and this is not one of them. Despite the very, very nice double Rutherford and belly flop.
Yeah, you can make an argument for actually keeping this against Ancient Research because Zipperwill has a tendency to run Ancient Research, and having 3 methods of hard or soft removal for Zippo is pretty strong. That being said, the turn 2 DFO is just so good.
Yeah, if you can stop her from flipping, you want to stop her from flipping.
All right.
Keep it. No, this is a pitch, actually.
Yep.
So I think that's...
That's all 5, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
On to
What we got next?
the next deck.
Another aggro deck.
Spookum Makookum.
This is a fun one.
Yeah. This is one that most of us are less familiar with.
It kind of had its big debut
Mhm.
at Gen Con just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. And it did very well. So, what do you think you want to keep with these hands, huh?
Well, with
So
the starting problem of trading,
This deck can still DFO, so or turn 2. Obviously, it can DFO. Almost every deck can DFO. But yeah, it can still DFO turn 2, so you're still going to be looking out for hands that let you do that. But other than that, you've got a lot of AT gens or fake AT gens. Really, they don't actually give you AT. That finding some of those is really good.
yep. Apple Bloom, Wonderbolt Stadium, Cloud Chaser.
Yeah.
And barring
What
that,
are
I
the
think,
turn 2 DFOs in here?
well, you're running trading. Smart Cookie really helps with that.
Smart Cookie helps. Will Make Our Mark really helps. That's a 1 AT for 3 power.
Yeah.
Doing stuff like playing Cloud Chaser into Snow Dash turn 1. Stuff like that.
All right.
Yeah, DFO on turn 2, not as common as what you'd see with Blazing Hot Wings, but still possible. Depending
It's
on
still
the opponent's
possible.
starting
Yes.
problem. All right, let's look at the first hand.
Hot Wings is what it's up against.
Most likely. Safe to assume Hot Wings. Let's put it that way.
Yep. Chet, what do you think?
Yeah, this was the brother of the guy who got second.
Yeah, he also got 4th.
Now, Lunatic says no entry.
So I don't actually know because I haven't played this deck. Or I don't think I ever played against it either.
So
I've actually played against it twice.
Here's what I'm seeing here. You don't have easy access to your secondary color here, although you do have a strong play in being able to get Apple Bloom down to give you access to Popping Corn. That being said, I don't think that's enough to justify keeping this hand.
No.
Yeah. Like,
Similar with the first hand we saw with Bluna or Hot Wings, this is you can't do much with this hand. Like, you play Apple Bloom and then what?
Well, you can stop your opponent's DFO,
Sure.
but you're also not getting the value out of stopping that DFO by forcing them to play their hasty friend, because Popping Corn has to be played at the start of the score phase.
yeah.
So, best case scenario, you force them to waste an Angel Wings trigger, which is okay, but it's not enough to
yeah.
it's not enough to justify keeping something like this when you don't have a way to get into blue.
Yeah. Yeah, and everything's just too expensive. You can't play anything here, so.
Yep.
Next.
So
Yeah, but-
Vinyl is so annoying. You never know what she is.
I mean, with trading traditions,
You know she's not farm.
Yeah, with trading traditions, there's a
I mean,
fairly
maybe?
safe assumption.
You say that.
With trading traditions, there's a fairly safe assumption that she's more likely to be controlled than if you were up against like Concerning Cutie Mark, for example.
I mean, only because not that we didn't see a strong showing of Original Hot, but like this is the starting for Original Hot. It's also
No,
the
original
starting.
hot uses Concerning Cutie Mark. Or,
Does?
Yeah,
No, it uses.
it uses Concerning Cutie Mark.
Oh,
because it's easier to confront with Airy Punch.
forgot about that. Let's see. What are people saying?
Yes, you do have a turn 1 stadium, which is
It's good. Turn 1 Stadium also means turn 1 Smart Cookie, not that that actually does anything.
I mean,
Well,
you could turn one
it
smart cookie
means-
anyway, but
It means you're playing. It means you're taking advantage of your stadium.
Right.
I'm not seeing many plays here.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's about the only thing you've got. Element of Honesty is good in theory, and you are up against a DJ that could be running control with troublemakers, but you've got to get that wreck out there first, and you're still a long ways off from doing that.
Yeah, even with Smart Cookie, you've got an unflipped Applejack. You can play Bailout, and that will put 2 cards in there, but, you know, it's a long time before you're going to play her. She's a mid to late game card. You don't typically want to see her this early.
Right. In this
Yeah.
case, again, especially with your opponent running such an easy to confront problem, you really want to try to push for a fast GFO if at all possible.
Certainly you want something faster than this,
It's important to
despite
keep in
having
mind-
the very nice stadium. Like, stadium is great. You want those turn 1, but
You also want other things that you can do with Stadium on turn 1.
yes.
pitch.
Yep.
Pitch this thing.
Pitch this hand. Pitch this
Pitch
hand.
this
No.
hand. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's
5, 6.
no.
Draw 6 more.
Draw 6 more. I'm okay
or
with
something.
this. All right, moving on.
Example 3.
AJ versus AJ.
Buy some apples. Somebody gonna be buying some apples here.
Now this
This
is
is-
an example of.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Bugle.
I was going to say, this is a really interesting one. I want to see what the chat thinks about this.
This is an example to me of how much information you can glean just from a starting problem.
Right.
Hey, look, it's AJ and Rockslide. I'm up against Farm. With near certainty.
Okay. Whaler says Stadium Cloud Chaser turn 1. Godot says absolutely keep. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, bailout.
Yeah, this
Like-
is...
Bailout is the big answer here.
This is really, really big. Yeah, the bailout is huge. You have an Earth Pony. You can go turn 1, Wonderbolt Stadium, Cloud Chaser, Apple Bloom. And then if you're on the draw and you think the opponent, or, you know, if you think the opponent has played a Starlight Glimmer, you can even use that Apple Bloom to play We'll Make Our Mark to push your Applejack to Rock Slide, and now they don't get 2 flips.
Yeah, this is kind of the Wombo combo.
Oh, it's even better because if your opponent opens with a Nightmare Moon, you get to giggle and then slam Element of Honesty on the table.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
just this is just pretty good hand against a farm deck. Especially since you like dumped your hand turn 1, so the Nightmare Moon doesn't even affect you too much.
Right. No, definitely a good choice. All right.
That's a keeper. Moving on.
Next hand.
Against.
What's also interesting to note, just going back to that for one quick second, is there's another use with Will Make Our Mark, which is kind of dumb, and I probably wouldn't do it, but you could then on your next turn move AJ up and play Will Make Our Mark just to challenge to get your AJ flipped.
You don't even need to move her.
Oh, you're right. You don't.
Yeah, it's like Biff Pow.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, we can keep going.
Yep. So, Ambassador of Friendship, Trading Traditions.
Okay. So we're assuming maybe some kind of Cruel Taskmistress, looking for orange, most likely as the
Orange or
secondary
white,
color.
but we don't know, like, because you make your mulligan decision before they call color.
Sure.
So I don't really like uneven ground against Ambassador, or really against decks that generate their own AT and don't have to rely on banking. But you got to think about the rest of the hand.
I mean, the other thing to look at is how much is uneven ground going to be affecting you when you have two sources of AT cost reduction.
Yeah.
And given the fact that you have a means of having kind of an explosive turn at the beginning with, Cloud Chaser into Apple Bloom, or Apple Bloom into Cloud Chaser into Snow Dash. Like, you can get Snow Dash up to 3 power, I'm pretty certain, on, like, turn 1.
Cloud Chaser into Apple Bloom, discarding something into Snow Dash, yeah.
Yeah, or the inverse. Not that it really matters what order that's done in. And then you're set up to play Orchard Blossom next turn. Not only are you set up to play Orchard Blossom next turn, you're set up to play Orchard Blossom next turn and potentially get your main up to a problem as well. So in this case, there's kind of the dream going on here where you can get Snow Dash down to your problem on turn 1 with Apple Bloom and Cloud Chaser at home. Then
No, you play one of them there.
I don't even think you need to, and here's why I say that. Then on your next turn, you use their effects to reduce the cost of Orchard Blossom.
Oh, right, yeah.
Down to 1, play Orchard Blossom to your opponent's Trading Traditions, and then pay 1 for Will Make Our Merc to move your main up.
Yeah.
There's a T2 DFO there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's turn 2 DFO, keep 100%.
And even
Plus
if you're
getting
going,
your AT gens and stuff.
Yeah. Even if you're going second, you still got entry and AT generators, so you're in happy town here.
Right. Also, Twilight's, like, the fact that she's running Trading Traditions means that she's going to be more likely to play a Troublemaker than she would if she was running Ancient Research. But still, you don't see that many turn 1 Troublemakers from something like this.
Anyway, shall we move on?
Yes. I mean, Cruel Taskmasters does run more of them. Okay, so I believe we're doing same hand here. Is that correct?
Same hand.
Same hand.
Same
but
hand,
against,
different main.
Against,
So also different problem.
Dream Guide and infiltrating the hive.
Hey kids, guess what that is?
I have no idea.
For bonus points, guess how many cards you're going to have in your hand after their turn 2?
For even more bonus points, name the full deck.
The abbreviated name is acceptable. If anyone
No,
copies,
it's not.
Yes, it is.
Three.
Too many
I mean,
points.
depends on which piles you make, but yeah.
that depends on whether or not you're actually still getting out your early play, which I would in this case. Close enough. Godot.
Mandatory subtitles.
We fear you have misunderstood our
No.
wishes.
Mandatory subtitles. Okay, so
So does the decision change against this main?
So I say no, but for a different reason. While we're not going to be able to get the turn 2 DFO quite as easily here, although it's not necessarily impossible.
You can still
you can.
with these cards.
Again, like I said, just not as easily.
Sure.
Infiltrating isn't that much of a boon to Luna, but more importantly, we can kind of vomit our hand out very early and get strong board presence to prevent Dream Guide's flip effect from wrecking our hand.
Yeah, even on the draw, which is usually before Luna can wreck your hand, you can still go Cloud Chaser into Apple Bloom into Rainbow or Snow Dash, right? And if you're on the play, you play Snow Dash to Infiltrating, which lets you play. Oh no! All right, I guess you're just one power short. Oh well.
Yep, because you need to have both Apple Bloom and Cloud Chaser to exhaust to play the Ocean Blossom and have Will Make Our Mark. I mean, you draw another Snow Dash, you might be pretty happy. Who knows?
Plus, Uneven Ground is much better in this matchup.
Yeah, because you know Orange Luna control is generally running expensive friends, and that means she has to save up.
And she has a lot of ways to interact with you on your turn, so you might be able to, when they save up, oh, they almost certainly have a bailout or a popping corn in their hand or whatever. So she kind of serves as a early warning system.
Rather, I disagree that if they take Will Make Our Mark, you're toast in this situation, because you're not going to be able to turn 2 DFO with just the cards that you have in hand here, and you're still going to be able to get almost all of them out there on the field. The important thing when you're playing against hand disruption is to try to get your board presence set up early.
Yeah, and you can get pretty set up with, you get 2 to 4 blue entry turn 1. That's really good.
Also, as the Dream Guide player, I would be focusing on even ground, getting rid of that. Because if that hits, you can all of a sudden not play your AJ Catajack until you're at 11 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just too late.
Yeah, or until you end up getting a Clipped Wings or Limestone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, still a keep, just a slightly different reason. All right, next deck.
Next deck? We're going to keep with Applejack here. We're just moving to farm.
Farm. Where's all of her friends?
She's got 5 friends.
She has herself.
Yeah.
And Flim and Flam are, I don't know if they make good friends. Didn't they get redeemed?
Nah.
Questionably?
Yeah, I think this is the version run at BronyCan.
Yeah, I believe so.
No, this is the top 16, top 4 in Gen Con.
Oh, okay, so this was the one that Richard ran.
Yeah, this is him trying to reverse engineer Feather's build.
Okay.
And coming pretty close.
Oh yeah, it still has the Destiny Drain. Okay.
All right. Let's look at hand number 1.
Well, we're supposed to discuss what you want.
I'm sorry. Before we go that. So
Troublemakers.
Troublemakers clearly, but I think exposed inequality more so than anything else.
You're looking for 1 exposed inequality and at least 1 other epic.
I always forgot the
Preferably
subtitle
a 5 power.
on Starlight. I always just call her the movement Starlight.
So enforced equality makes everything equal at 2. Exposed inequality moves you, but not your opponent.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get those mixed
And
up
Chrono
anyway.
Trigger blows up.
Yeah, and Chrono Trigger is a bomb.
Whatever, it's Chrono.
You don't run the other Starlight in an AJ farm deck, so it's just Starlight.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
Swift Starlight. Alright.
Other than that, things I'd like seeing would be like popping corn against aggro decks, or even bailout. That's also acceptable.
Yeah, bailing out Luna. Or even,
Bailout-
what's her... early game bailout against, what is even her name? Vinyl.
Against farm
Can
is
be
good too.
okay. And against farm, yeah.
Barrel through is very important against farm as well.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, Phlegm and Phlegm is okay against aggro.
No F-stop. That would be weird. Well, I don't know if I'd say weird. That'd be interesting. A farming deck with F-stop.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh.
don't think I'd ever risk that.
If
for
you
Yeah.
know
no
your
flip.
opponent is playing control, I would probably value Nightmare Star over Glimmer.
Yeah, not a farming card really, but there are orange-white control decks that use F-stop and play popping corn. over and
Stopping
over again.
corn. That was a fun deck.
Yeah. It was a fun deck.
Alright, so first hand?
Yeah.
Up against Blue No Trading Traditions. And that is a lot of clipped wings.
It's a few copies of Clipped Wings.
I don't even
So then-
know. Like,
Godot
Godot
says keep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Kratos
chat
is-
doesn't agree.
got some disagreement here. I'm actually still thinking, like, there's some risks here. So, my issue with keeping this is clipped wings is vaguely important against like you don't so the problem is if you play Nightmare Moon and Nightmare Star, then turn 2 or turn 3 or whatever turn you're gonna do it on, you're getting rid of all 3 of your clipped wings. Like, yeah, exactly, Rayler. Yeah.
Well, what do you want to clip wings?
Soren or Gabby are going to be the two choices. Soren being the
Right.
big one.
Or
And
what's this? Night Glider, potentially. Like, sometimes if you know, like, I can't stop the DFO next turn, well, block the Night Glider. I just don't like losing that many.
So, me, I would actually keep this on the play, and I would mull it on the draw. On the play, you're going to be discarding. Well, yes, you will be discarding your clipped wings. You're only going to be discarding one unknown card, and I think the double trouble and the forcing the Hot Wings player to discard their hand is worth losing your clipped wings.
Maybe?
But on the draw, you're losing an extra card, and you're less likely to disrupt their turn 2 DFO, and so on and so forth. You know that they have a low flip average compared to you, so you can probably still beat up the Nightmare Star, despite it not being a 5-power. So
Yeah.
I think it's worth on
And
the
would you,
play.
which Troublemakers would you play where? I'm assuming Nightmare Star to your own.
Nightmare Star to yours, Nightmare Moon to theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it actually kind of is like is important for these. Okay, next one? Question mark?
Yeah, sure. Unless
Yeah.
anyone has anything else to add. Like,
That?
does Zara have an opinion?
Yeah, was waiting.
Well,
You've got me doing grace work over here.
this next one, that's a lot of Troublemakers. I mean, the deck does run like 15 or something. What is it?
Is
I
a
think
lot.
it's more than that.
Enough.
Never enough.
So it's
So
not 45. You could be running more.
Yeah, Godot spots the important piece here, but I think this is also very important to determine who's going first.
Yep. I
Yeah.
think who's going first matters a lot
yeah,
here.
barrel through is important. Who's first does matter.
Oh, this is actually really funny because this is a game of chicken.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Who's gonna spend their trollmakers? Who's like farm versus farm is kind of annoying actually.
It's not as annoying as Professor Twilight versus Professor Twilight. That is the worst.
Yeah, that is terrible. So having like Nightmare Moon, I don't actually mind because you so many other troublemakers. What I do vaguely worry about is your opponent playing Nightmare Moon and wrecking all your troublemakers. But like they're gonna have troublemakers too. Yeah, I mean obviously Nightmare Moon's not going down turn 1. Like
Well, this particular deck has 18 epics, so
yeah.
What? You obviously play Nightmare Moon turn 1 here. Burn the world.
No. Oh, that only works if you've got the other Nightmare Moon for the other problem as well.
Double Nightmare Moon. We're both gonna lose.
Basically.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? I am thinking keep only because of barrel through.
I would keep on the play and pitch on the draw.
I agree.
What are you
keep it on
looking
the play.
for on the draw?
I don't have the color requirement to play barrel through before my opponent starts challenging troublemakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, from ordering. Yep. I like. What are you hoping to draw into though?
Probably a glimmer.
A glimmer would be really good.
Being faster is good.
The other thing that I might be hoping to draw into is just disruption to follow. Like the thing is, you might not on the draw, you might not be able to stop your opponent from beating up their first troublemaker. Whatever, you kind of have to accept that. But you're also sitting on absolutely nothing if your opponent actually gets ahead of you here.
Yeah. You just got troublemakers. Yeah, nothing else.
So if I know I'm going to be playing catch up, I'm going to want some tools to help me with that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is keep on hand. Or keep on play, rather.
Aura says burn the world with Nightmare Moon.
I says burn the world with Nightmare Moon because that's always funny.
All right, that's fair.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably just keep it.
And Applejack watched Fiddly Faddle Fiddle as the world burned.
Sure.
I don't even get that reference. Oh well.
It's Nero.
But Applejack doesn't actually fiddle, but her cousin does.
Yep.
You mean the Octavia recolor, or is that a different one?
No, that's the Octavia recolor.
Okay.
All right, next hand. Let's keep things moving.
Ancient research. The return of Zippo. Maybe.
True Terror. So this one's pretty easy in my mind.
I mean, you just cry because it might be Zippo.
I mean, sure. There is the possibility that it's Zippo.
Yeah, but...
But are you going to give up Exposed Inequality and an Epic?
Yeah, I mean... Like, I don't know...
Yeah.
Is there a situation where you mull if you have inequality in an epic? Like,
I don't think so. Maybe. It's real iffy. Whaler, farming, especially this type of farming, is never going to be concerned with trying to knock people off of starting problems. That's not what you do. You are in your own little bubble, you're in your own little world, and you are just looking at the point value of cards in your hand.
Yep.
The only time you're going to be looking to try to start DFOs in this is if you have run out of epics and it's towards the mid to late game.
Also notable here, actually, is the bell tower. It can surprise some farming player or some control players. Just whoops! Suddenly, those stuff that you didn't expect to be frightened for a while is now frightened. So that's typically more relevant against the aggro players for sure. Though another important thing is Glimmer is useful against forced movement, just in general.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. Aura, any thoughts? There's no Nightmare Moon to burn the world this time.
You have anything that looks like a good 2 opening hands, just go with that. Or 2 opening turns.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I was like, opening hands,
Yeah, I
what?
was like, yeah. All right, next hand.
DJ. And an interesting hand? I actually... Oh, yeah, no.
Chat, what do you think? We haven't asked you for a while. I can tell you I know exactly what I would be doing with this hand. Rayler says keep, Makoto says keep. Keep all around. I agree. Survey says keep.
But why? Why are we keeping? Nightmare Star?
Nightmare Star.
And, like...
And Captain Jack.
Yeah, and Captain Jack. And Clipped Wings. Like...
This is kind of the dream.
Against a probably control player? Like, this is amazing.
If this is a control player, your outs in the mid to late game are Nightmare Star and Captain Jack. And you have them right there. They're right here. And you can bail out to stall them, whatever. Like, this is just a good hand. Plus, you have another epic that you can farm, even though you can't farm at turn 2.
Yep. Now, the question I would have here is, would you actually play Nightmare Star to Trading Traditions? And
Yes.
I think the answer is yes, I would. Because while normally you want to try to get your opponent off of those problems, again, farming doesn't have the best means of doing so, even though we've got both versions of our friends in our hand right now.
Yeah.
No, this is totally fine. You can defend Nightmare Star for a little bit here.
Yeah, you
The
can
Nightmare
defend
Star-
the Nightmare Star, and you can play the Flowing Flame and actually confront Rock Slide.
Yep. It's pretty nice.
I'd still drop the Oizodal and punch it.
Oh, for sure.
Well, yeah, you do that first. You can't confront until you flip your main.
Wait,
Yeah.
why do you care about confronting?
Get
Yeah,
some
I
extra
don't-
points. I mean, you only have one epic right now that you're going to be beating up
Right,
in your
yeah.
hand.
If you don't draw other epics, this is an option to let you confront.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it would probably also be worth getting the Flim Flam down just to prevent a dilemma from messing things up.
On
In
Yeah,
case
sure.
they happen to play aggro, yes.
Yeah, on the
Yeah.
chances
I
of
mean,
aggro.
well, we saw that in the control deck. We saw that in Butts.
Although, to be perfectly fair, if this does turn out to be a aggro deck, it's just going to be like, well, belly flop, and then it won't matter.
No Railer, they can't Snips and Snails Nightmare Star off their problem.
No
Because
SNS.
Nightmare Star stops that.
Yeah.
Keep.
Yep. Keep.
Okay. On to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they could Snips and Snails Nightmare Star. It just requires a really stupid setup.
They need to be playing yellow.
They need to be playing yellow.
Well, they need to be playing a different main because the only other card that does it specifies non-epic. Anyway, same hand, different opponent.
Does it change anything? I actually have to think about this for a second.
I don't think it changes anything. The Nightmare Star is way too valuable against half the stuff that would be running.
Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily running the same pieces. It's not running the same friends that are going to be exhausting, but it is running friends that are going to be exhausting.
Yeah, but
Like the question becomes, what else do you want to see against Dream Guide, right? What else do you want to see against Sonalgo?
Yeah, it's a question of what's the rest of my deck.
You could have a hand with more troublemakers.
Because you have to keep in mind Luna's going to be banishing half your hand, but in this case, I think Luna banishes the Captain Jack.
Yeah, probably. Although Luna doesn't typically play wide.
Yeah, because Luna has its own.
I'll tell you another reason I actually like this hand is I like having a cheap secondary Earth Pony to kind of counter the early Earth Pony play from Dream Guide, so that I can get my Rock Slide back online.
Cheap. I mean, that's 5.
2 AT.
Flim and Flam are not Earth.
Oh, I'm sorry, they're not.
They
ignore me.
They use unicorns.
Ignore me.
Yeah, I was going to say 5 does not seem cheap.
They are not the Earth Ponies.
But I do think you keep here. But again, for different reasons.
Kind of the same.
Well, I guess it is the same reason. So Nightmare Star, yeah.
Nightmare Star is a good card against a number of different decks.
So what are your piles going to be, though?
Okay, so we're assuming that turn 1 is Awizodal to Rock Slide and Nightmare Star to Infiltrating?
Yeah.
Okay. So at that point, I would put Bailout and...
Yeah.
I would probably put Captain Jack in her own pile. And I'd put Clipped Wings, Bailout, and Flim and Flam in the other.
That seems like an invitation to only have an Applejack or Captain Jack in your hand.
It does.
I mean...
Plus, keep in mind you're drawing at least one more card before Luna flips.
I guess that's true, but the problem is, like, Bailout's going to have you toss another card as well. And, yeah, you can draw that extra one. I guess if I was to move something over, I'd probably move the Flim and Flam over to...
Yeah, something else needs to be on the AJ pile. Because having been on the other side of this match, yeah, that AJ is going bye-bye.
Well, again, that's more of an argument for keeping AJ in its own pile.
Yeah, if you think that she's just going to pick the Applejack no matter what, then yeah, you just put Applejack in one pile and 4 cards in the other pile. But if I was a Luna player, I would say, yeah, I'm going to get rid of your 4 cards instead of your 1 card.
Yeah, I'm going to think real hard about that if you give me an AJ and then everything else.
I think a lot of that depends on what the extra card is, because I was just basing it off of what's in hand right now.
Yeah, because that's all we know.
Yep. All right, last deck?
Last deck.
So many cards. Barely fits.
What is this mess?
It's Cruel Mistress.
I know what it is.
Isn't it Cruel Taskmistress?
No, it is Cruel Mistress. The card is Cruel Taskmistress.
Cruel Mistress?
Yes.
It is just Cruel Mistress.
Well, now I have to go rename everything.
Not made by Rarity 0 of 10.
So, here, generally, you want a card you can play turn 1.
Gasp.
So this would be your Twilights and Rarities, or your Applejacks, or in extenuating circumstances, your Kevin plus a Starsword or a Gyro.
Yeah, flipping is something that is good, but doesn't necessarily need to take as early priority as some other decks running Ambassador of Friendship.
Yeah, it's typically... Your plan here is to get to 3 purple power, more than it is to flip your main.
And you've got a good suite of troublemakers. Mimics are obviously very strong against just about every deck. Maybe farming not quite as much. So, let's take a look at some hands.
Hey, look, it's a hand. Is this a good hand? I mean, it has some cards in it.
So you're up against Vinyl. You've got a card you can play on turn 1 if you really want to.
Is that from discard pile or hand?
Discard
From
pile.
discard pile.
Discard. Okay. Not that it really matters with this hand, but but that card is more about portaling.
Right.
So yeah, this really comes down to a question of how much do you really want the color out there early, even if you're losing the effect.
Well, more than that, this lets you flip your main because you find the 1 copy of Star Soul Research.
Sure.
But yeah, you're playing against Final. There's a decent chance they have Snips and Snails. And there's a decent chance that they might be trying to DFO quickly. Either way, you want power out now. Like, granted, you can wait. You could play the makeover into Twilight and Rarity, but why spend the extra resources?
Right. And Gyro is just such a good card in a deck like this that is not quite as toolboxy as VBot, but it's pretty close.
Yeah. And again, like, this does let you flip your main turn 2, which is pretty good.
There's another advantage here that might be a little bit more subtle, which is if your opponent is running control and is likely running Changeling Mimics, you actually have the tool to get rid of their mimics without ever having to pay a tax on it.
Yes.
By playing Twilight Sparkle Rarity on turn 1, playing Gyro to get your Star Soul Research, flip your main, and then still have that 1 AT left for cracking the case.
Yeah. So I think you're pretty happy with this hand, regardless.
Mm-hmm. Next hand.
Next hand. Double portal. I mean,
That
someone
Sven Gallop is not supposed to be there.
that Sven Gallop is supposed to be a factory jack.
that
Something-
totally changes things.
Okay. Well,
What's Factory Jack's number? Yeah, I was a bit confused by that.
Factory is 65. Oh, so it was 1 number off.
You don't choose what color trading tradition is until your hand. That Sven Gallop is just the wrong card. Like, so
Yeah.
whoops.
Yeah, it's Factory Jack. If you have this hand and you're playing Cruel Mistress, you call the judge and ask your opponent if they accidentally shuffled one of their cards into your deck.
And this is why you count your cards.
Yep.
Make sure that you have 45 of them. Hey, why is this one in a different colored sleeve? Judge, I think my opponent has marked cards.
So, Godo says keep. We're assuming this is a Factory Jack.
There you
You're
go.
up again.
Now it's a Factory Jack.
You're up against Hot Wings here. This is almost certainly going to be a T2 DFO. I think you keep this just because you've got the Factory Jack, and it might get scared, but at least you've got the color.
There is no flip. And you're not really going to stop. I mean, if you're going first, like, you can IDP something, but...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you're going first, this is better, but I don't necessarily think it's bad enough going second that you still wouldn't play it.
Yeah.
If your opponent really wants to knock you off of Trading Traditions, okay, they can. You don't have a means of flipping your main here, which is kind of unfortunate. But you've got Luna's Future and double interdimensional portal. You've got Train.
I will say here, absolutely do. If you're going to keep this hand, and keeping it is a bit risky, do not play her to a problem. You're just inviting them to Berry Punch, Orange Swirl, DFO, feed Applejack to Soren.
I mean,
And then you're
it's-
just in a really bad spot.
yeah.
I mean, they might do that anyway.
They might do it anyway, but you're giving them 2 power.
Yeah.
But personally, I would not keep this hand because you're playing against a deck that has a lot of removal, and if you lose Applejack, this hand does nothing.
Yeah, pretty much.
I probably wouldn't keep it on the play.
Yeah, on
or
the
on the draw.
I would maybe keep it on the play.
And I feel like I'd look at this and see AJ and be like, K, but thinking about it harder, yeah.
All right, next hand. We got 3 more left. And then we can take
Scoots.
some questions. What? Scoots isn't a main. We're not in limited.
So, I think going first or second matters here.
I don't know.
These hands all feel terrible.
Core Mistress in general just feels terrible.
Ouch.
I mean, the early game.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, it doesn't have a great early game.
It has like almost no early game. Like this is the best early game that we've seen out of any of these hands, just because you can lock down both problems with smooths.
yeah.
Just lull, double trouble.
Yeah, that's
And
the
then-
only thing this has is the double smooth. Which this is the it lives for an extra kill.
Yeah. And it doesn't give your opponent points there either.
Yeah.
So given that, and the fact that you've got a lot, I don't know, the flip average on Cruel Taskmistress is not super high, but the flip average on Scootaloo Aggro might also not be that high. I would consider keeping this on turn 1. I would not keep this on turn 2 at all.
You definitely do not keep this on the draw.
Or, yeah, sorry, that's what I meant.
But yes, on the play, I would actually keep this just because Double Trouble hurts Scootaloo so much. Even though
Not
you
only-
can't play a single card in your hand.
It's basically quadruple trouble too, is the other
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it slows Scootaloo down a lot. So I would actually keep this on the play and hope I draw out of it. And maybe you don't, and oh well. But chances are you will.
I might have rather seen one of those smooths as a Jet Set and Evercrest here,
Sure.
and then play that to Concerning Cutie Mark, and play the smooths to Trading Traditions. But, you know, there are lots of things I would have rather seen in this hand.
Right.
Why can't we
a
just
card
craft
you-
our opening
a
hands? Like,
friend you can play.
that would totally make sense.
Oh jeez.
Combo for days.
Those are that's a different
Oh.
game.
Silver Spanner. Google Silver Spanner 9.
That's chaos rules.
You may craft your opening hand. Bugle, let it happen, please.
and
That's chaos.
and you get
It's not a
to
deck building challenge.
scry or meticulous, what is it?
No.
45.
Hand 4.
All right, fine. Hand 4.
Okay.
Or 19, depending on how you want to count.
I like to count in base pile.
Base file.
2, 6, 10, 14.
Yep.
Well, only one more counter and then Starlight goes off, and we have to dismiss everything and then put everything into play.
No, that's true.
Yeah, base glimmer.
Base Glimmer.
4, 6, 12, 16, boom.
Yes.
All right. Next hand.
Yeah.
Hey, here's your jet set in upper crust. Not sure you want them anymore, but
I mean, yeah, now we don't necessarily know. Railer says snap keep. Anything else from chat? Or is everyone just going to agree with keep? Do we have any dissenters?
I think everyone else is just looking at this going, what the?
What do I do with this?
What would he do with this hand?
Well, I know what I would do with this hand.
What
I'd
would you do with this hand, Cheese?
throw it on the ground.
Would you?
Yeah, like, what do you have? I mean, you have F-stop. F-stop, nice.
So you have F-stop. You have Magical Misfire against a deck that could very easily be Toolbox. You have entry into your secondary color, as well as a Troublemaker that you can have with Alicorn Amulet to make it epic, so you can get rid of any Troublemaker your opponent plays.
Yeah,
And you've got a Luna's Future, so you can continually boost the power of Jet Set, even if you have nothing else to do.
or get rid of resources. Like if this is VBot, like getting rid of what is it called? Study session is very relevant.
Luna's Future. Metal card.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah.
And you can even use it to fake portal your Twilight and Rarity.
The reason I actually really like this hand is because of Magical Misfire and F-stop.
Yeah, Magical Misfire and F-stop is very, very powerful here. If
Yeah,
you think
if
this
it
is
is-
control,
If it's Toolbox.
If
Or
you
if it's
think
an
this
F-stop
is-
deck.
Yeah, if you think this is aggro, though, the hand's only okay.
Yeah, I was thinking more about aggro. Against aggro, this is kind of useless.
I mean, against aggro, if you're going first, it's still not bad, because you just play Jet Set to their problem.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Yeah.
even your own.
And Jet Set has 3 friends, right? Not 3 characters.
3 friends, yeah.
Correct.
It's so
Yes.
annoying.
And you can even make it bigger with Alicorn Amulet.
Yeah.
Or just run away.
bigger than 0.
Bigger than 0.
Jezbar, I know a lot of this can seem overwhelming just because there's so many little decisions to be made, but that's something that just comes with practice, and it's part of the reason why we run series like this, because a lot of this isn't immediately obvious. A lot of this is something that you really have to dig into if you want to bring your play up to the most competitive level.
You don't even
And-
need to be doing that at this level to be competitive. It certainly helps, but
Yeah, so don't worry about feeling overwhelmed. This is just us really nitpicking.
Also, if you notice, there's like a few of the. Well, I don't know how many of these hands that we've been over in total have been like 100% keep.
There have been
A few.
A few, yeah. Like, it's always a judgment call, but
All right. So that was
Last
hand
hand.
19. So we're keeping this hand. and
same
we're
hand,
Changing the opponent. Yeah.
same main, different problem.
that the trigger's in the queue.
Yeah, because now aggro. Wait,
Yeah,
which
now-
trigger?
The Starlight trigger.
Wait, what?
What?
We're counting in base Starlight.
Oh, we've gone to
The
dang,
the
okay.
trigger for boom
This
is in the
is
queue.
20.
Oh, that's right. It's
It is 20. Okay.
all right. In this situation, I would be more likely to pitch.
Yeah, this is signaling I'm an aggro deck.
Doesn't have the tools to stop aggro. The Jet Set may actually slow it down a little bit, but that's a big bet.
Right,
I
the
mean,
other
it kind of
problem-
does, but
The other problem is DJ aggro has a tendency to run Snips and Snails as well.
Yeah.
So Jet Set isn't going to be as efficient as if it was, say, Bluna.
Hey, if they want to burn a Snips and Snails on Jet Set, that's fine with me.
I think if you do keep this hand, which I wouldn't, but if you do keep this hand and you play Jet Set here, you play it to your opponent's problem, so that if your opponent decides to Snips and Snails, you're not losing your trading traditions.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you mulligan here, though it is a bit of a risky mulligan because you are getting rid of a friend that you can play, but again, you can't really do much with this hand.
Yeah.
And
But-
on the draw, I would definitely mulligan this.
It is a question that we've seen that's come up several times throughout this stream so far, is okay, so I mulligan this hand, what am I looking for? And that's really a key question you can answer, is if your deck is so varied or has so many different pieces in it that you can't say, I absolutely want to see this card every time, or if you just don't have that card, then you might say, well, what could I possibly draw that would be better? And that's a good thing to look at as well, is sometimes it pays to go greedy. And then other times you get relentlessly punished for it.
Yes, mulliganing is always a chance, just because you might wind up with the worst hand you could possibly get, but on the other hand, you might wind up with the best hand you could possibly get. We've all been there.
Yep.
Anyway, hope this exercise was fun. We're hoping to do stuff like this again with other topics, not just mulliganing. Though, I mean, there are other decks. We could do this with other decks.
We'll do like a 6-episode series on mulligans where we just go through every single deck and it just take like 8 hours to watch the whole thing. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
No.
If we were going to do this again, I wouldn't want to do it until the meta changed.
Yeah.
Sure.
And,
But now that we've gone
we have a
through-
lot of other important topics we could cover.
Yeah. Now that we've gone through all these decks, I would like to open up the opportunity for questions from chat. And I believe that Rayler asked a question on our Facebook page earlier, which was, how does playing the Lyra main affect your mulligan decision? And that's actually more complex than it might seem at the beginning. On the surface, and let's each share our thoughts on this. On the surface, Lyra looks like it's just the ability to mulligan at some point in the game. Yes, that was you, Rayler. I did call you out by name. On the surface, Lyra looks like she just gives you the ability to get a slightly better mulligan at some point in the game, at the cost of having your hand discarded instead of coming back into your deck. But if you're playing Lyra, there's generally a specific reason you're doing so. And that reason is, I'm sorry, what was that, Cheese?
Combo.
Combo?
Someone said combo.
Did someone say combo?
Maybe.
No.
Yeah, the primary reason you're playing Lyra over a card like DJ is because you want some sort of explosive burst turn, and more often than not, you're generally trying to abuse Lyra. And in those situations, you almost never are going to want to just spend her flip, or her initial flip, rather, just because you can keep a bad hand. Like, the logic behind mulliganing with Lyra isn't really any different than it is with any other main. If you have a bad hand, why not pitch it back and try to get a better hand? It's just, well, you might have an out if the hand is a little bit wishy-washy.
Yeah, if you're playing Lyra, you're typically going to be playing cards off of Lyra. Like, you're just going to have more one pink rec cards or whatever. Like, you're still going to have good and bad hands.
I think the only impact that Lyra would actually make, let us assume that you're not playing her in a combo environment. The only impact Lyra is going to present is if you have a hand that's kind of borderline. If you have a hand that is auto keep, it's still auto keep. If you have a hand that is auto pitch, it's still auto pitch. If you have a hand that you're like, then you might look to see if you can play some pieces of it and then pitch the rest to fill up later.
Right.
And that just might make that slightly better. You might need fewer playable pieces in your opening hand in order to justify it.
But you still want something you can do. Like, you don't want to discard 6 cards for 2 AT. That's awful deal.
Now, Ara, you've had some experience playing Lyra.
I've had experience playing against Lyra, but only against some of our locals' more interesting decks.
Would you say that's a pretty good philosophy to take with her? Or do you think that changes a bit when Lyra's in a combo setting?
Well, again, with interesting decks meaning combo, particularly non-viable combo, but funny combo nonetheless.
Rayler has
And-
pointed out that if you're abusing Lyra, you'll have to deal with Bonbon's Fury.
Uh-huh.
Oh no, it can be. Whatever will we do?
I don't know. Candy gave us trouble earlier today.
To some degree, I'd almost say that if you're running Lyra, you're probably not in a competitive environment. Or if you are, then you found something.
Or you're in block.
You're doing something weird.
I don't know if Lyra's really a replacement for Vinyl. Like,
she's not, but to be fair, it does do kind of funny things in a block environment where you can just be like, oh darn, my hand's empty because I'm an aggro deck. Be a shame if I paid 2 AT and got another 8 cards. Or you could have, played Gabby a long time ago.
yeah.
So, yeah, the answer kind of becomes, it doesn't really change your logic behind mulliganing. It might just make you slightly greedier. Slightly. Do we have any other questions from chat regarding mulligans, specific situations, questions, comments, concerns? And while we're looking for questions here, now would be a good time to talk about our next upcoming stream as well, which I'm excited about.
What is it?
It's a live duel between me and Emperor Bugle.
What are you gonna be running?
That
I don't know. What are we running?
is actually not up to us.
I see.
Not entirely, anyway.
Do tell.
Well, for this particular live duel between Grand Pros and E-Bugle, each of us have presented 3 possible deck archetypes that we can play. And we're going to let our patrons decide who's going to be playing what, so that they can see the matchup that is most desirable to them. In fact, there's actually a poll up right now that will be open until Wednesday for any of our patrons on our newly created Patreon page to go and vote for the matchup that they would like to see. And we can perhaps link this into chat. There we go. So, Bugle, what 3 decks are you listing as your possible options for this stream next Sunday?
Well, I have Fluttershy Nurturing Nature. That's the new Fluttershy for those unfamiliar with the subtitle. Blue Aggro. I have Scootaloo Orange Aggro. And also Cruel Mistress, if people aren't sick of me playing Control yet.
Okay. So a couple of interesting options. Definitely some things outside the meta and one within the meta. And I am listing my possible options as mono white control with Queen Chrysalis commanding Queen from Absolute Discord. Ag Studies, which is Professor Twilight mono purple farming. And Ravers combo using Applejack Apple Vendor, in case people aren't sick of me playing combo.
Combo. I vote combo. Oh wait, I don't get a vote.
I heard our queen. Our queen is best queen.
So many of our patrons have already cast their votes on our Patreon page, but there is still time. Anyone who signs up to be a patron at just the $1 level or above will get access to this poll and all future polls, and also a thank you at the end of every stream. So if you have a particular matchup that you really want to see, if you want to see what Fluttershy can do just from staying home and being lazy, or what Scootaloo can do when paired with
From
orange.
not being lazy and leaving home as frequently as possible.
Right. Or what the options for other monocolor control decks are. Or if you just want to see a janky combo.
Vote.
Yes, so go and
So-
vote. We do have a question in chat
Yes.
though. No, guidance counselor needs to stay banned forever.
So
We did a
yeah.
nightmare tournament, and it is at least as oppressive as it has ever been, and it's only worse now.
Yeah. So the question is, should any of the bans be reconsidered? In our opinion.
Rainbow Shine.
Rainbow
No,
Shine.
actually, Rainbow Shine needs to stay out because
I mean, yeah.
So Rainbow Shine still constrains design space, even if she isn't necessarily broken right now. She's just a massive headache for devs. However, just about every other card that we've seen is
was banned for a reason and needs to stay banned.
right.
I want EOM back.
Nope.
I would also love to have EOM back, but we're never going to get that.
Yeah.
I
Specifically,
could see an argument for bringing back Globetrotter because there's a lot of ways to
there's
interact with
better
him now.
ways.
Sure.
And
But
there's better ways to
It's
do what
just
he
an
did.
unfun combo to play against. This is why Vapor Trail was banned. And I think if we're living in a reality where Vapor Trail is banned, we should live in the reality where Globetrotter is banned as well.
Right, exactly. They both enable the similar negative play experiences.
If someone wants to grab the list for the nightmare version of
Fluttershy's no
Fluttershy.
fun zone.
yeah,
Oh,
Pegasire Jerks.
or whatever it was. But yeah, the problem is now is that it's much easier to get her out early than it used to be, and you
You
can have
don't just
more
have-
copies now. So you're
Red Heart makes her a lot scarier.
you're looking at like turn something stupid. Like you can do turn 2. Can you do turn 2 double now?
No, you can do turn 2 1, and then you can do turn 3 double
Yeah.
because of Red Heart.
And it just gets worse from there.
Also, you can you have 8 copies of your second instead of just 2 copies of your second.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the same problem that ended up happening with Pile. Right? At the beginning, when Pile was a combo deck, there were only 3 penny lanes. And
Which is manageable.
Right. Like,
Isn't
you
there a
deal with
song
that.
about this?
Yeah, there is a song about this. It's about you.
Oh yeah, that one.
So it wasn't necessarily always going to result in your opponent getting this enormous AT advantage. But then we got Absolute Discord, and then we got Queen Chrysalis, and all of a sudden now there were 6 potential penny lanes. And then a few sets later, we got Dip in the Pool, and now all of a sudden there's 9 potential penny lanes.
And 9 is too many.
9 is too many. And it's the same problem that ended up happening with Fluttershy. Like, you don't need to run any other banned cards in that deck in order for it to just completely be oppressive and lock out your opponent.
But you do. You run Penny.
Because why
Apparently, it
not?
was running penny.
I mean, sure, you can run Penny there, but you didn't absolutely have to. It would still be oppressive
No,
just with the
didn't
9
have to.
Fluttershies.
9 Fluttershies is annoying. And
Oh, this is missing the main, but it's vinyl. Because
Oh,
of course it's
yes.
vinyl.
But that's a good question. You know, does the ban list continue to be
it
relevant?
is a worthwhile question, and it's something that the devs look at every so often. But they do, like, they've decided so far not to unban anything, and yeah, I agree. Also, thank you, Railer.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate it very much. And now you get to vote. And you get to decide if you want to see Degenerate Combo or the grindiest of control matchups.
So good news, everyone. Instead of a 3-way tie, we now have a 4-way tie.
Someone's going to have to be the deciding vote.
Uh-oh. Could it be you?
No.
No,
Maybe.
you as in the viewer, not
Ah.
as in...
You
You-
are reviewers, yes.
Yes. It could be you.
Or do you want to be the person to make it a 5-way tie?
We could have a
We can
nine-way
go
tie.
up to 9.
Yeah.
9-way tie.
Do we have anything else that we would like to cover right now?
I don't know. Do we have any closing thoughts on Mulligans?
Like most tactics in this game, it's something that you get better at with practice and with your familiarity of your deck.
Yeah, I guess my closing thought is I personally like to, before big tournaments, I will just take my deck and shuffle it and draw a sample hand and go, would I mulligan this or not? And sometimes I would go, they're playing Applejack Farm. Does that change my decision or not? It's a simple exercise that you can do and just gives you some experience thinking, is this a hand that I would keep or not?
Yeah, another reason of why it's important to know your deck. I think we said a lot during the know your opponent things. You're like know your deck. Is what could you mull into?
What could you mull into? Yeah.
So we've got another question. Novelty decks.
Yes.
I think we've done some of those.
Yeah, there
A
may be
perfectly
Peek out-
ordinary day.
Yeah,
Peek out,
that's
is
the
that
one.
one?
That's the one that comes to mind.
A nice,
Luna
calm,
antisocial.
ordinary day.
Oh, that one. Yeah, the Luna has no friends deck.
Which, oddly enough, is much better with a
Hats.
different main.
Yeah.
Hats. Yeah.
Hats decks. How many hats can I put on this pony?
The answer is not enough.
Yes.
Dear Princess Rob, we want a set with nothing but hats. Okay, Flitter wants a set with nothing but hats.
I was gonna say, don't lump me into that.
And
Unless I can combo with hats. If I can do a hats combo, I'll do it.
Yeah. I mean,
Actually, let's just errata Slick Shade so you may have any number of them in your deck.
there we go.
Now that would be that. You think? I think Ponko would like that. Just for the memes.
Meme deck. Meme sealed.
Meme sealed.
Meme sealed, too good.
So I don't know if I've done any, or if anyone there has done any novelty decks recently. I know there were a lot previously.
I don't know.
I've done one.
Do you count
The,
the initial version of Discord Sack of Sadness as a novelty deck?
Maybe, but no, I
No,
built
that wasn't
a
That wasn't
a-
novelty. That was
what
spite.
was it? Orange white reanimator deck.
That wasn't novelty. That was the thing, and they killed it.
Well,
Why you gotta open old wounds like that, Bugle?
but it
I
right
know,
now
I
it's a
know.
novelty deck. It even runs two taking charges that you can only play from your discard.
Yeah, novelty decks are definitely fun. But I think the one thing that we really enjoy doing, Desmar, or at least what I really enjoy doing, is trying to find the single most brain-melting engines possible after staring at Ponyhead for like a year with no new sets coming out.
Yeah, so Discord Sack of Sadness, for those unfamiliar, it's a well, actually, let's have Grandpa's introduce this.
Sure. I think we still have the deck list somewhere.
Yeah, I was getting it.
So Cheese will bring up that deck list here.
Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. Discord Sack of Sadness was a deck that was kind of poking fun at VBot a little bit, at least in naming convention, if nothing else, whose entire goal was to stop the opposing main from flipping. It had standard control cards past that point, but it dedicated like a good third to maybe half of its deck to just making sure that the opponent cannot confront and flip their main or otherwise flip through other means.
Oh no, I think this was the version that was flip the table, not your main.
Oh, that's right. That's flip the
Yeah.
table, not your main.
Because there was a different one, yeah.
Yeah, Discord Sack of Sadness was a slightly more serious version of that, where we didn't run as many cards to stop the opponent's main from flipping, but we did run Discord bending the rules so that we would have 3 power in 2 different colors on turn 1, so you can do really ridiculous things with that.
Yeah, this was...
This, however, is flip the table, not your main. where let's take a look at the number of cards that are playable on turn 1 that
Oh
can
dear.
prevent you.
No. We don't have time for this.
No. I'm just saying like a rapid fire thing here. Snips and Snails, Sonata Dusk, Princess Cadence, Sweetie Belle, Soprano, Nightmare Moon, Stand Still. Stand Still on turn 0 is hilarious. That's all. Oh, Spotlight. I'm sorry. Turn 1 Spotlight.
Anyway, I think we're just about done unless anyone has a last second question here. Probably time for our final slide.
Yep, thank you everyone for joining us for this stream. Next Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific, we will have our live duel up between Ebugle and myself based on the votes from our Patreons. Thank you to all of them here, and we'll get their names up here in a moment.
As a note, those of you who have voted, if you have changed your mind for whatever reason, you can change your vote on the Patreon polls, which is pretty cool. And those of you who haven't voted, you can also change your mind by changing it from a 0 to a whichever one of the 9 options you prefer.
That's right. Now, if you have any thoughts or feedback that you'd like to provide to us, obviously the best way of doing so is through our Slack channel, which patrons at the $5 level or above do get access to, but we are still available for contact through a number of different methods. You can chat with us on Facebook on our page at facebook.com/commentaryismagic and send us an email to commentaryismagicteam@gmail.com. Tweet at us on Twitter. Or just yell at us at conventions. That also works okay.
Yes. Make sure to yell at us at conventions. Don't just open your window and yell into the night air.
So,
I mean,
next
it
convention's
typically
going to
helps.
be potentially a while?
Maybe. We'll have to see. We've got plans. Plans and machinations. But for now, thank you again to everyone for joining us. We really did have fun with this stream, and we're going to look forward to doing more Tactics Talks in the future.
yes, do let us know how you felt about the Tactics Talk format. Is this something you would like to see about other topics? Do you never want us to do this again? Hopefully not, because I personally had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, it was fun. Good
But
thought
yeah,
exercise.
let us know. Your feedback lets us build the best content we can.
Until then, I am Grandpa's.
I am Emperor Bugle.
Big Cheese?
And our cat.
And we'll see you all in a week.
Bye.